for strikeouts in a game. 20.
Swung on and driven to deep left. It is hit. Number 8. Yankees win. Yankees win. Bernie Williams homers deep in the left field seat to lead off the 11th inning on a 1-run finish. And the Yankees beat the Orioles 5-4 to win Game 1 of the American League Championship Series. Burn, baby, burn. He said it again.
There it goes! Staring into history. He's done it. He has done it. 62. Aaron Judge is the American League single-season home run leader. The AL King, case closed.
What is going on, baseball fans? We are back with another installment of the Baseball Banter broadcast. For Dave and I am Jeremy Laracuente, and we are continuing our series here examining the state of the franchise. From championship glory to rebuilding years, every team has a story. And the story we're covering today is that of the Miami Marlins. And we're honored to bring on our guest, Alex Carver of the Fish on the Farm. What's going on, Alex?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. Was looking at your guys' stuff after you invited me on, and it seems like a cool show, something that I am glad to do. So thank you, of course, for inviting me on. Should be probably one of the more sadder episodes probably that you're going to do, but we'll always keep it 100 on our side. So let's do it.
Absolutely. So as we start out this series, we kind of take a little bit of a retrospective and kind of get gut reactions on the 2024 campaign. So just tell me a little bit about how you felt about 24 before we get into the 25 season.
It was writing was kind of on the wall that this was going to be a full-blown rebuild, and they started to finally show that. The good thing that I liked about it is that they actually established that identity. No more of this middle of the road, we're going to fake like we're trying to actually win and we're actually really not. It became quite evident last year that you have to establish an identity. You either have to start spending a lot more money or you need to just tear it all down. And they tore it all down. Whichever direction they would have went, I know that's the unpopular direction for fans. They had to establish identity in going one way or the other, right? Not bringing in Tim Anderson and Gene Segura and guys like that. You need to establish identity, either tear it all down or go actually spend real money. So they tore it down. Skip's gone now. He was a win first guy. Now we have Clayton. We'll see what he is. He's not saying win nearly as much as Skip did, so I think he knows the direction as well. So yeah, I mean, they needed to establish identity. I'm glad that they did, and this is where we're at now. So unpopular amongst fans, I get it. This team has been unpopular amongst fans in this area, which is, if you're a team in this area, a pro sports team that isn't winning, the fans don't care. So it's probably going to be like that for a couple more years here in South Florida. But like I said, to put it nicely, I was very, very happy to see them finally establish identity.
For sure. Now, as you said, it is a team kind of in transition in that rebuild mode, but there were, a couple of names, a couple of guys that were picked up. I think most notably Matt Mervis in the trade with the Cubs. So what of the moves that the Marlins did make do you think is going to have the most impact, whether it be in 25 or kind of long-term for the franchise?
Well, the biggest thing that they did this year that will have the best impact on the franchise is getting Andrew Salas. That is something that was massive. And they spent more money on him than any of their free agents up until when they signed Victor Mesa, and we know how that turned out. So that was huge. I talked to that kid yesterday. It's a 16-year-old kid that they brought straight into the United States. They're not even going to put him in the DR. The plan that we hear is that he's actually going to start here stateside as a 16-year-old kid, and he's already there in camp with the minor league guys. They have an early camp. So I talked to him yesterday. I'm expecting like this deer in the headlights kid that's like totally overwhelmed, kind of just like, immature. But the interview that I did with him and like just listening to him speak how articulate he is, smart, and just not afraid of anything. He is, I think, first impressions well beyond his years already. So I think that guy is going to be a special, special player. That, I know that's a minor league thing and not a major league thing. That's the biggest thing that they did.
That's awesome. So definitely somebody to kind of pay attention to over the next several years for Miami is a big name to kind of mention.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they matriculated it with Kevin DeFrank too, who's another guy that they really liked. He's starting in the DR, but that's another guy that they really like that's already has like a sick changeup at age 16. Like it's just that international signing class was great. I think they did a really good job with that. And David Hernandez Bean's first year as the director, he's taking over for a guy left, Adrian Lorenzo. So in his first year, he absolutely nailed it. Like he did so well with this international signing class. That was a highlight of this offseason, and I think will be a highlight of the Marlins' future for a long time. So the international signing class with Salas, DeFrank, and others is the biggest thing that they did.
That's awesome to definitely look at. Now, as we look at the actual roster on the major league side for the 2025 Marlins, there's a lot of injuries that have come through for this team over the past couple of seasons. Obviously Sandy Alcantara, Yuri Perez, Braxton Garrett, Andrew Nardi, Max Meyer, Declan Cronin. I mean, the injury list is very long for the Marlins. So where do those injured players kind of stand, and which one do you think is going to be the one that lingers the most, and which one lingers the least?
So Yuri Perez is the big one. He's due back. He had Tommy John. He's due back mid-season. So they're not going to have him for half the season. But we talked to him the other day, and he's around. He's around the team. He's around Sandy. He's like his best friend. So Sandy went through it. He's going to guide this guy through it. I think it's going to be okay with him. It sucks that we're not going to see him for another half of the season because he is a big part of the Marlins. But having him back mid-season, I think will maybe bring some excitement back after what I think is going to be a slow start and a slow season overall. Getting him back mid-season may actually re-excite fans. Hopefully it does. That'll be really, really cool to see Yuri back. Max Meyer and Declan Cronin. Max Meyer, I think, is good. I think that he's ready to go pretty much. Declan Cronin, I think, is also, I think he's good. And then Braxton Garrett is out for the year. So, starting pitching, that's why I had to go out and get Quantrill. Like, you have these injuries, you got to fill space. They do have minor league guys that are nearing being ready, but I don't think that they're fully ready just yet, such as Adam Mazur. I saw him throw yesterday, and fastball, slider, good. He's working on his curveball, which I know it's like only my first time seeing it yesterday, but it's raw. He needs time to develop that pitch. So I think Mazur, even though his clock's already started, I think he's going to go back, I think, at this point, unless he surprises, which could happen. Snelling, I don't think they're going to start the clock. Robbie Snelling, I don't think they're going to start a clock yet. That's probably going to be until they can save the year of control because they're not winning this year. So there's no reason to bring a guy up and start his clock if you don't have to. I think you're going to see it kind of piece together at the start of the year, the rotation. And then Yuri gets back, and maybe, a couple months into the season, they call up those minor league guys if they're ready.
You guys have got Edward Cabrera, right?
Yeah, Edward's still here. I think a telltale sign year for him is he actually going to be a starting pitcher. I think this year's the year to really that's going to tell that or not. When he loses control, he loses it bad. And he has great games. He comes out and he throws 7-8 innings and he's great. But then he has games where his control is just gone and it's not there. So he's had injuries mixed in with that. He's lost time due to injuries, yes. But now he has a whole new staff that's going to be behind him. See what Daniel Moscos does with him. See what McCullough does with him. Mel Stottlemyre Jr., I thought that was one of the best guys for him. And in all the years that Mel was here, injuries and other things, he couldn't totally figure it out. So I think if he doesn't figure it out this year, long-term, he's still bullpen. But hopefully he does.
I saw him.
He's got
I saw him pitch last summer in Jacksonville, and like I didn't even know he was in. I didn't even recognize him, honestly. Yep. And I just see this dude on the mound just mowing dudes down, throwing gas. I'm like, who the hell is this pitching? Mm-hmm. I look at it, and I'm like, oh, it's Edward Cabrera. I'm like, oh, damn. All right, well,
yeah.
So he looked real good in the start that he had when I went up there. I think it was last July. But
yeah, no, stuff is not a question. It's just consistency. It's pretty much his issue.
In terms of, the on-field product, who do you believe is going to be kind of the X factor for the Marlins in 2025? And what do you think the success would look like for that player?
It's funny that you use X because I think Xavier Edwards is going to be that guy. This is a guy who had a great year last year. I think he was called up late. I think he probably could have gotten called up sooner than he did. But he is now playing shortstop, which is not his natural position. It could work out for him. He doesn't look terrible at shortstop. I think he's better fit for like second base. They also have put him in the outfield. Like they've done a couple of different things with this guy. They've tried center field. Like they've tried certain things with this player. I think he's best fit for second base, but it doesn't look terrible at shortstop. I want to see how his defense continues to improve at shortstop. And then with the bat, he just gets on base and does really well at getting on base. So I think he's going to hit near the top of the lineup. I think he's going to play a couple of different positions, probably mostly shortstop, but he can play other positions. And the Marlins love versatile guys. They always have. So I think he's going to play a lot of games as long as he's healthy. I think he's going to be here the whole year. And like I said, I think he's going to be a top of the lineup guy, first or second, to get on base for other guys. And he's decent speed too. He's not terribly slow. So I think that he will be a guy the success of the Marlins will go through Xavier Edwards, I think.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about, sorry, Jay. My bad.
I agree. I think that for me, looking at this team, Xavier Edwards was definitely going to be the guy that I see as the X factor.
What about, let me ask you about two of our guys that you picked up at the trade deadline for Jazz Chisholm. Agustin Ramirez, who's an absolute stud with the bat, and Jared Cerna. Do you see them breaking camp with the team this year, and do they still see Ramirez as a catcher or more of like a first baseman DH type of deal?
So to answer your first question, I would say no. I don't think either one of them will break camp with the Marlins. To answer your second question, I think that they are going to try to make it stick for Agustin Ramirez at catcher, but I don't think that they think it will work. So I think they're going to try because they need catching. I mean, they need it. They have Joe Mack in the minors who is nearing being ready after last year. If he has another good year this year, he's going to be there eventually, probably next year, maybe end of the year this year. Ramirez, I think, is just doesn't really have anything that is advanced defensively at catcher. He doesn't receive, he doesn't block, he doesn't throw. So I know he's a big body, he's a big dude, but he doesn't frame, like he doesn't have anything at catcher right now that is even an average tool, I don't think. So unless they can develop it, they have a new catching coordinator, Joe Singley. They got this guy from the Reds. Maybe he can bring it out of this player. I don't know. Hopefully. I mean, sticking a catcher for this kid would be awesome because that's a premium position. And like you said, he hits absolute tanks with the bat. So it will be awesome if he could stick a catcher, but I don't think it will happen. And then you said Cerna. I like him. I like the look of him, plays a lot of positions. Like I said, the Marlins love guys that play a lot of positions and are easy to get into games. That's been like that for a while. Even this new coaching staff, they like it too. So he can do that. I think he's more doubles first, bat first than anything else. Average speed, which is okay. Not bad. But yeah, just I think a guy that is a good contact oriented hitter that will play a bunch of positions. So I like him. I think there will be room for him later in the year, but I don't think it will be out of camp personally. But like I said, if somebody gets hurt, I think he's one of the first guys that they will call him.
Interesting.
Now, as we transition kind of from the call-up phrase, in looking at MLB.com, it has Thomas White listed as the top prospect for the Marlins. If this is your forte, so tell me a bit about him and who do you think are some of the other names to watch for this season?
Yeah, Thomas is just an absolute stud. I mean, I know that phrase stud gets pushed around prospects talk a lot. I don't say it unless I really mean it. I joke with the Fish on First guys that, I'll call anybody a stud, but it's obviously a joke. But yeah, anyways, I don't like to throw that phrase around seriously unless I mean it. I mean it with this guy. He's really good. So far ahead for his age, coming in with Noble Meyer. And I like Noble Meyer too. I think Noble Meyer could still be good. But what this guy has an edge on is just the mental side of things, deals with failure well. The big thing with me with high school players is when they get drafted out of high school, most of these guys that are good high round pick or first couple round picks, they've never failed before in their careers. They're used to going out and just killing it, right? How do you deal with failure the first time it comes your way? Thomas White has gone through that so far already in his minor league career. And it doesn't phase him. It doesn't matter. Like, he'll go to the next hitter. Like, he'll go on to the next hitter and forget about what happened to the hitter before. Some high school players, I think, including Noble Meyer, no slight on my guy Noble, I love him. I think he's still learning that side of things. But for Noble, that's not there. And then his stuff is just off the charts. Great. I mean, there's not one pitch that he has that I don't think is below probably a 55 to 60 grade pitch. It's really good stuff. Really good. That curveball that he has is sick. Pairs it with the moving fastball. He started to elevate the fastball. He can also throw it outside of the strike zone. It's so good. I can't say enough about Thomas White, and the confidence that kid has is awesome. I am really excited for that player. He is the number one prospect in the organization. I do agree with Pipeline on that. And I think that he is on track to be here probably next year. To answer the other side of your question, you asked about a guy that maybe is under the radar. I don't really think he's too under the radar. Just a name that not a lot of people know is Andre Savalor. I love that player a lot, and he's come back even larger size-wise this spring. He looks even bigger, and he's like 18. So played in the FCL last year. I thought could have gotten up to Jupiter. He will go to Jupiter this year and probably will deserve, if he performs like he was in the FCL, should probably end the year in single A advance. I think the Marlins are going to challenge. They've proven, Rachel Valkovich and Gabe Kapler have proven that if you are ready to be challenged, they will do it. So you see that with some of the NRIs they have in camp. If you're ready, they're going to do it. Like they saw Andrew Salas is going to Jupiter. Apparently he's already in minor league camp. If they think you're ready, they're going to put you there. So I think that Andres Valor is a guy to really keep an eye on this year. I think he probably will end the season in single A advanced if he's good.
Now, as we look to the 25 season, I always like to find out what a bold prediction is for the team. So what do you think is the bold prediction for the Marlins?
So the bold prediction for the Marlins, man. I could give you a couple. I'll give you one. I think that Ryan Weathers will have a solid year. I really think that kid will be good. I will put him in the realm of possibility to near about 200 strikeouts. I think he's going to have a really good year. And it's a guy that nobody's really talking about. He was a little bit up and down last year, struggled a little bit, was in and out. I think that this guy is ready to be back and ready to be good. He's adding in a couple of pitches. He's working on a couple of pitches. I really like the look of this player. Also, you talk about Max Meyer. I think that he's going to come back really well. There were questions about if this guy can stick as a starting pitcher. I think with what he's doing, adding in sweeper, I think he's going to be good. He needs something to kind of combat with his fastball. I mean, his changeup was the biggest question for Meyer. Is how is the changeup going to develop? What are you going to do with the changeup? I've asked him that question so many times. Yeah, I'm working on it. It's never really come through. I think this year's the year we see it come through, pairing it with the new sweeper. I think that guy's going to be good, and I think that he will hold down an ERA under. Let's say he sticks as a starter the whole year, and his ERA is under 3.5. There's two bold predictions.
There we go. So, one of the things that I do like to ask and kind of find out about is, and I think that there's going to be a long answer with this one, but what is the level of frustration with the fans, and what's kind of the biggest frustration for Marlins fans?
The biggest frustration for Marlins fans is that the team doesn't spend money. That's the biggest frustration for fans. But like I said, with establishing identity, what did happen a couple years ago is that Bruce Sherman, the owner of the team, did say verbatim, we have money and we will spend it. Didn't spend money. I mean, his biggest contract, I think that was like Richard Blyer or something like that, right? Like it wasn't a lot. So when he said something like that, and when he said that when he got here, and then everything happened with Jeter, and Jeter's out. You guys know Jeter. Jeter's out because Jeter wanted to spend money, and Jeter wanted to go get Castellanos. And there was this whole thing like with the money thing, and they think that's why Jeter left, and it probably was involved in that situation, that the team wasn't doing what he thought they were going to do. He's a winner. He wants to win baseball games, right? He doesn't want to go into a rebuild. So when Sherman said that, and then that didn't happen, and now it's gone to, we have money and we'll spend it at the right time. That's a direct quote. Fans are alienated by that behavior. So, I mean, the message changes. Yes, things change, but to say one thing and do something completely different, I think that is the main frustration for Marlins fans. And it's a fan base that was also alienated by previous ownership groups as well. So when
same kind of pretense, right?
Yeah, when fans see that continuous behavior, they're not going to be happy. So I get it, but like I said, what they did have to do is go one way or the other, and it would have taken a lot more money than he was willing to spend to do it, like to be a World Series contender, and or even a playoff team again. I think so. It had to be done. They had to go one way or the other, but some of the behavior and some of the things that are not true at all that were said is the main frustration for this fan base. When will they spend money again? I think that they will when they're ready, but they do need to build the system up and be a feeder system. This isn't the Dodgers. This isn't a team that's going to go out and be the Mets. It's not like that. It has to have a good foundational minor league system. They have to build from within, and that's where they're going to start doing that. They're going to start doing that now.
Alex, let me ask you something, because this is, as a baseball fan, has driven me nuts to watch this from the other side. Like, the Marlins and the A's are probably the two most abused fan bases in Major League Baseball. Like, for the life of me, I cannot understand why they cannot build a winner in Miami since 2003. It's been 22 years. Like, it just blows my mind, especially for like younger players that don't have families. It's like, why wouldn't you want to go play in Miami? It's like probably one of the nicest places on the face of this planet, and it's warm year round. Like, I just don't understand like why this organization just can't build a sustained winner.
Yep.
Like, what is it about this organization that they just don't get?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's just been that purgatory, right, where you're not making money. You're the value of your franchise is not increasing because you can't get fans to show up. So they're not that they're stuck, but it would take an owner with a lot more fortitude than the ownership groups that we've seen to kind of just say, okay, I'm going to be AJ Preller and we're just going to go buy everything that we need to buy and we're going to win this year, and then we're going to encourage fans to come out and sign all these long-term deals. The Marlins aren't going to do that. They can't. They don't have the fan base support to do that, and it's their own fault as to why they don't.
Yeah.
They don't have really I wouldn't even say they definitely don't have the marketing strategy to do that. This team's marketing strategy has been questionable for a while. And it's very hard to market a losing team. It is. Like, you see commercials now, and the biggest guy that they're marketing is Xavier Edwards. And Xavier Edwards is a good player, but on another team, he's not a star, right? And that's your star player that you have to try to market.
Right.
That's difficult. So, you can't get people to show up. You can't spend on players. You're not unwilling to spend on players, especially right now. That's kind of like the purgatorial thing for the Marlins, is that they don't really have the spending power to do something like that, to go out and sign high-priced free agents. And then with the prospects that they've brought in, on a large scale, it has not really worked out. And go look at some of the names that they've drafted and some of the names that they've missed on in those drafts that they could have had here. Okay. So their draft strategy also hasn't been good. So when you're missing in drafts and you can't sign established players, you have to build up your farm, and they've struggled doing that because guys have not panned out. I mean, injuries, or they think he's one thing and he's another. Like it's been very difficult for them to properly scout and develop talent. Hopefully now they're doing big things in player development. That is the focus. That is where they're spending money. He's not spending money on contracts, but he is spending money there. So that's the hope that is with Marlins fans now, is that this minor league system will be different and will be what the Marlins need it to be. I mean, they should have gotten the first overall pick and gotten freaking Ethan in here, but of course they're picking 7th because it's the Marlins. But hopefully with everything that's going on with player dev, to the beautiful new Dominican Academy, this great international class that I pointed out, hopefully this is the start of this and the system going from, one of bottom of the barrel up to I think it's middle of the road right now by a lot of outlets' opinions. I think this could eventually be, if they keep adding, I think it could be a top 5 system pretty soon.
So now when examining the team going forward for the 2025 campaign, kind of how would you grade out the offense on a, A to F scale for the Marlins this year?
Man, what do I think this team's going to grade out this year? I'm going to put offense. I do like Xavier Edwards. I do like the power potential of Jesus Sanchez. I do like the power potential of Davison De Los Santos, of course, at the cost of many strikeouts. But this is a really young offense. I think there's one position player that has 3 years of major league experience, and that's Jesus Sanchez. So they have some older guys on the pitching side, but offense, this is a really young team. They have positional battles in the outfield. I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's going to be like Griffin Conine, Derek Hill, or Kyle Stowers, who really struggled last year after he came over. So that's kind of going to be, it could be a hole. Hopefully Conine wins it and is good, because I think he could be good, but also a lot of strikeouts. So there's holes here. And then what happens with the rest of these young players, a lot of which are less than 2 years into their career. I'm going to say that this is a below average offense, and I will give it a D on offense.
Yeah, so that's kind of in my pre-gaming for this series. It's kind of where I had him as well. I think there's a ton of upside with Xavier Edwards. I think that he is going to kind of be the focal point of this offense. And like you said, I think there's going to be a lot of, positional battles and kind of a lot of, growing pains, as it were, for this team in this season. Now, in looking on the pitching side of things, how would you grade out the pitching side of things for Miami?
Yeah, so of course they lose Luzardo, which sucks. Hometown kid, I really liked him. I covered him in high school actually too at Douglas. Awesome guy. I hated losing him. I thought, it was an interesting time to get rid of him. But the Marlins thought that, if he gets hurt again, then you could get nothing, right? So I think that they thought they were maxing out on value. I think the return for him was really good with Caba. But anyways, not going too long on that. They built that rotation in Philadelphia is sick. Anyways, the Marlins pitching side of things, you do get Sandy back, of course, which is massive. It's going to start on opening day, probably against Paul Skeens. That's going to be a great one to see. He's going to bring fans out, hopefully, to the ballpark. He's a fan favorite. It's going to be awesome to see Sandy back, and he better stay healthy. He better stay healthy. How long is Sandy here? That's another question. I don't think we want to get into that. Do they trade him this year? It's possible. So yeah. Anyways, so Sandy back is big. Weathers, I think, is going to be really good. That was one of my bold predictions. I think that he will be pretty good this year. I've liked what we've seen very early from him. And he seems in shape. He seems happy. He seems like he's ready to go. I do like Ryan Weathers a lot, and I think he's a really good story to watch this year. I like Max Meyer with adding in the sweeper. If can he develop the changeup is a big question still. Fastball's good. I like him. Bullpen's I think okay. They brought in a couple of guys. I do like some of the prospects they have coming up for bullpen as well, like Josh Ackness and Austin Roberts, who are guys that probably people don't really know about. Nardi, as long as he's healthy, I think he's going to be good. He's got this, I think, back issue going on right now, like inflammation, but I don't think it's too serious. He's just a little behind. Possible closer right there with Andrew Nardi, which I think he's good for it. But yeah, I think pitching's a bit better. I just think you got some question marks at the back end, of course, with everything that's gone on with trades and injuries and stuff. Braxton, of course, going down sucks. Quantrill coming over, 30 years old, established veteran guy. Could be okay, probably mostly innings eating, but he's out of Colorado, so he doesn't have to deal with that anymore. That's good. So I think he'll like it here. Yeah, I think he'll like it here, and I think he'll do okay here as a back end guy. So I think pitching's okay. I'll give the pitching a C plus. Pitching.
Yeah, I'm close with you there. I had it as a C minus. I think Sandy coming back is going to be the biggest factor for that. Like you said earlier and mentioned, Yuri Perez coming back midseason, I think will help kind of revitalize and rejuvenate that pitching staff once that happens. But I think there's a lot of questions, and when you have so much kind of turnover, it does tend to kind of leave things up in the air a bit more. So
yeah, and we called out before too, like what happens with Edward Cabrera. That I think is a telling point to watch for the Marlins. How good will their pitching be? I think a lot of it will depend on Cabrera, and can he be consistent? Can he be that good Edward and not the Jekyll and Hyde Edward that's good one day and bad the next day? And then Max Meyer, what is he going to do? How is this new pitch going to work? And where's the changeup? Those are your two main questions. We know Sandy's going to be good. We know Yuri's going to be good when he comes back as long as he's healthy. This Quantrill guy, we kind of know what we're getting. He's an established veteran. He's kind of innings getting guy, not overpowering. You kind of know what you're getting. But there's two guys in the middle, Cabrera and Meyer. I think Weathers will be good, but he's another one. But anyways, what's going to happen with Cabrera? What's going to happen with Max Meyer? I think those are two telltale signs on how good the Marlins pitching will be.
For sure. So that kind of leads then into, what do you think is the biggest question for the Marlins in 2025?
I think the biggest question organizationally for the Marlins is what happens with player development. Is this new strategy that they have, is it working? Or when will we see it fully show up? And we need to see it show up soon, because this fan base can't take another 7 years of losing. We understand that it's a rebuild, but we're wanting more of 2027 than 2032. You know what I mean? And another thing is what's going to happen with the draft. Can they start drafting responsibly? They got a tough draw picking at 7. I think you can still get a quality player. What's going to happen with the draft? That's another big one for me. We've seen it show up with international scouting, I think. Is it going to show up with the draft? I think that, that's a big question mark. I think last year's draft was the first for the new guy, Pilieri. So the first draft for him. I think I get his strategy looking back at it, but you kind of wanted. I thought they were going to go college bat, of course, at the first round. They didn't. They go PJ Orlando. So we still have to see how that works out. I won't comment on that. But what happens overall with the draft, and can those players be developed properly, is kind of a big question mark, because again, they're going to have to get players at their highest, at the best possible value, right, for the team. So the draft and international stuff is huge for that. Trades, of course, is one thing, but they're now, not that they're out of trade chips, because of course you could go to Sandy if you want to, or whatever it may be, but you're kind of dwindling down to the last guys that are going to get you great returns, right? So,
almost down to the studs when it comes to guys to be able to trade.
Exactly. So, they can't just do it through trades. They have to be able to do it through the draft and international stuff. So I think that the draft is another big one. And like I said, just player development as a whole, is this working? We see all the analytics. We see all the computers. What does it all mean? Are players liking being here? Are players actually, do they feel like they're being developed properly here? So I think it's the biggest question mark on the Marlins back is player development working, and when will we see it start to show up in major leagues?
Definitely. So as we kind of wind down here, the divisional ranking predictions have, both PECOTA and Fangraphs have the Marlins at 5th in the NL East. PECOTA has the Marlins winning just 62 games and dropping 100, and Fangraphs has it at 71 and 91. Where do you kind of see the Marlins landing in terms of their win-loss total?
Well, I do think that they will finish last in the division. I'll give you that. In terms of a win-loss total, I don't want to be too negative, because I do think that getting Sandy back is huge, and getting Yuri back will be huge on the pitching side. I do think they have some prospects that they will call up to make this better than last year. So I don't think it's going to be as bad as last year. I'll tell you that. I would probably put it closer to the second rankings that you, or the second total that you gave. I would probably say they'll lose probably. I think they'll lose 90 games. I think they'll lose 90 and win the rest.
Yeah, so that would put it at 72 and 90.
Yeah, I think that's probably what I would say if I pinned it down. Not as bad as last year, but still not good. But I think when they start calling up those guys that once, they can save the exterior control, they'll start calling them up and you'll see those guys perform. Davison, De Los Santos, Robbie Snelling, guys like that. I think that you'll see them start to show up and be quality players. And that should give fans something to talk about too. Of course, the casual fan here is not going to go out if the team's, has, 80 losses on the year, 90 losses on the year. Nobody's going to really care about a prospect call up in midseason. Like nobody's going to care. Right. But the diehards will show up and they'll be happy to see quality prospects succeeding at the major league level. And again, it's another question with player development. Is it going to happen? They have the talent. They got to bring it out. So yeah, 90 losses, I think is about fair. That's where I would put it, but I don't think it's bad as last year.
Gotcha. So then as we wrap up here, kind of using the titular nature of this series, where do you see the state of this franchise for 2025 and beyond?
So I think it's going in the right direction, right? I do. I do honestly believe that, that they are trying their best to, like I said before, establish an identity and becoming a feeder system. I don't think being the 15th best farm system is enough. They have to get to the 5th best farm system if this is really going to work. That's where they have to be, because this isn't not just something that they're going to rebuild and the next year they're going to say, okay, now we're going to spend on free agent. No, this is something that needs to happen year round here. The Marlins have to have a feeder system with quality. They have to be a top 5-10 system year in and year out to succeed as a franchise. That's just the nature of this. That's the nature of this market. That's the nature of this ownership group. And they understand that. So I do think they're going in the right direction. It sucks for fans to see their favorite players get traded out of here. It will be really hard if they trade Sandy Alcantara, a Cy Young Award winner who is one of the best pitchers in baseball. Why can't you just build around him? Well, like I said before, they need to go from 15th to 5th if it's going to work out long term. So I think it's going in the right direction, but I don't think they're close yet to being that long-term sustainable winner. So what I would say overall is that it's going in the right direction, but they still need to continue on this path that they've started last year to really be a sustainable winning franchise. That is just going to luck into the playoffs in a half a season, right? It needs to be year in, year out, sustainable success with quality star blue chip prospects in your system. I think they have a couple star prospects in the system right now, but is any of them a blue chip prospect? I think Thomas White is. So I will say him. But past him, and I think Andrew Salas is too, but that's a long way to go. But anyways, I don't think you can. It would be fair to say, for somebody looking at the system, it would be fair to say that they don't have really a blue chip prospect. It would be fair to say that. They have to get to a point where they can get those players from other teams in trades or, whatever it may be, draft them, which would be preferable, or scout them out of the international countries. So they're going in the right direction. I really like the international draft. Last year's draft, we'll see. This year's draft, I think, is a telltale sign. So the biggest question mark overall is how are they going to get to be that top 5 system? That's the biggest question.
Definitely. I think that, it's going to be a long year in terms of fan engagement when it comes to the Marlins. But as you said, if they can start laying their foundation properly this time for being able to be a sustainable winner, I look at a team, right there in South Florida, in Florida with them, with the Tampa Bay Rays. Year after year, they bring in quality, players to replace the guys that they trade away. And it almost seems like the guys they're replacing are better than the guys they traded off. So, getting Miami to that same kind of feeder system, as you said, is definitely something that they're going to have to do to be a sustainable winner.
That's what Bendix wants to do. I mean, a lot of what he does is being modeled after the Rays. I mean, even a lot of the guys that he brought in are straight from there. So He wants to do that here. That's kind of the model that he's trying to follow, obviously, because that's what he knew before this. So we got to see it happen. And again, I don't think that this fan base can take another 10 years of this. So we're wanting to see it happen. Sooner rather than later. We know they're not going to win the World Series, again, very likely not for another, I would say at least 3 or 4 years. But that sounds a lot better than saying, okay, Miami, we're not going to win again until, 2032, right? You know what I mean? So they have established identity. That is the good thing that they did. Now you got to take the right steps.
Definitely. So it's been a fun conversation with you, man. Let everybody know where they can find you and get more content from you.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm on Twitter at Marlins Miners. I also have my own area of the Fish on First website where their contributors also contribute to my stuff. We partner together, me and the Fish on First guys. I am their official minor league coverage partner. Like I said, their contributors come do some of my stuff, help me out. I help them out with some other things on the major league side as well. We do podcasts. We have, I think, the most circumventional coverage of the Miami Marlins organization that is available anywhere. So it's fishonfirst.com. My stuff is there under the moniker of Fish on the Farm. On Twitter at Marlins Miners. Also follow Fish on First. All of their staffers are great. My good friends, my friend Eli, my friend Kevin, Isaac, Hector, Alex Krutchik, all those guys are amazing people that have such great knowledge. Louis Adiawais, all these guys have such great knowledge. Nate that we just brought in, who's now a full-timer. We have interns that want to come and work for us. So what Eli has built up is just a fantastic outlet. A lot of what we do and a lot of what happens on the website is thanks to his ideas and insights. So we're a tight-knit group of guys. We all know this system. We all know this team. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. But I think together we make the best coverage that, being totally just unbiased, of course, I think we make the best coverage and best daily coverage of this team that can be found anywhere. So follow Fish on First. I'm at Fish on the Farm. You can find us all there. Fishonfirst.com is where you can find everything.
Absolutely. So definitely give them a follow. Check out their website. Great stuff, great coverage of the Miami Marlins. And then obviously on our side here on the Baseball Banter broadcast, if you're listening on the audio platform side, make sure you leave a 5-star rating review. On the YouTube side, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell for post notifications each and every time as we bring you new content. Once again, I want to thank you, Alex, for joining me here. This was a very insightful conversation into the Miami Marlins. So definitely thank you for coming on and joining with us here today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Glad to do it. This is a cool show. I was watching your guys' other episodes. So good stuff. Keep going. And if you need anything else, just let us know.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And so thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.